Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions in the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, news, sports, everything really depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. You'll recognize my guest from a show that recently got picked up on NBC called Nurses. We were with Donald MacLean Jr. Donald, welcome to Popternative.
Hey, what's up, man? It's been a while.
Well, welcome back. You know what I mean? Behind the scenes.
I know. Should we tell them the story? Should we...
Oh, I mean, it's just technical issues and time and place. You know what I mean? But we're here now, right? That's all that matters.
We made it. I'm able to be. Am I from Nurses? Am I like the number 4th or 5th guest?
I've interviewed everyone but Sandy.
Okay. So
like I've even interviewed, like literally, like I've even interviewed. Umberly's been on the show. Tristan's been on the show.
Okay. So I'm not the last one of the party. Okay.
No, you're not. But you're one of the first people because I interviewed Jordan, then I interviewed you. But we didn't really do anything with that. But
you got all of us.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. Exciting time. I mean, Canadian show like Nurses that has a lot of people on it, like Tiara and Jordan and yourself that worked on a lot of projects in the States. It's pretty cool that it's a Canadian show picked up by a U.S. network. What was that kind of like for you guys?
Well, it's unbelievable. I've said it before, and it's like anytime you get anything seen in general or anything works, it's like it feels like a miracle, and that's why I guess being in this work is gratifying because so many things have to come together for it to actually be pulled off.
Yeah.
And to do it, like you said, to do it in Canada, no pilot, straight to 10 episodes, then get picked up on NBC and people responding to it and enjoying it. It wasn't never even in my, that wasn't even in my radar. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like in my reality at all. And then it happens. It was very surprising. And I think like everybody involved is very grateful. And you kept up with the show before we got picked up, right? Like you knew about it. Yeah. So it's weird, right? Like knowing, like you're like, oh yeah, that's that show that I like,
Well, I remember like I was talking to you about it, I was talking to Jordan about it, Tristan about it too. I mean, like I wasn't really like surprised when I found out that it was getting picked up by NBC. I mean, it's a great product. The acting is amazing. And I think the chemistry between like kind of the nurses, like, yeah, that's something we talked about last time too on the episode that didn't air, but like you guys have like a good thing going. Like you said that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially season 2. We got so much tighter as a group. Like we're family now. And I never really thought I would get that tight with a cast because it's just you just move so fast. Like, oh, okay, yeah, nice to see you. Okay, bye. Like, you know what I mean? Like next project, that's kind of the game, right? But this is like my family. Like when we would shoot season 2 and we'd like need to be together, need to socialize because we weren't allowed to see anybody else. We're in each other's bubble. We would come here and we just hang out, air it out, and like just talk about everything on set and just be there for each other. So the chemistry is for sure on screen, but now also personally, it's like beautiful,
Do you think people realize, like, I mean, you're working on the show, you guys are with each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And it can, I feel like it can be kind of both sides. Like people can kind of, establish relationships and become lifelong friends, or it could be like the other way around. But it's funny because I hear sometimes that it doesn't, like everyone says, the best thing about working on the show is like the family, dynamic, but like, and then I hear like that doesn't happen as much as people think.
Like the media prep answers,
exactly.
It's a weird, in my opinion, like just personally how I look at it, it's like you're getting a bunch of adults to access like their childlike emotions and imagination, like, you know what I mean? Like you have to be, if you're on set, like I think to be a good actor, you have to be almost childlike to figure out how to be like real to the the human condition. And you're putting like all these adults in this space, and sometimes it could either be like everyone's frequency matches or it could go the other way, and
absolutely.
With the show and everything too, like we're playing nurses and like all the characters seem to like each other and the relationships are interesting. So sometimes I believe the work does bleed in with the reality too.
Well, that was like kind of my next question, because I mean, there was a delay in terms of shooting season 2 because of the pandemic. You guys kind of went back, and you know what? You guys seem to be kind of one of the like I have a lot of friends that are on shows and movies, but you guys seem to be kind of one of the projects that kind of went back quick, like
first one, I believe.
Yeah, first one. Did that, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you know, you guys are playing nurses during a pandemic where these are the real heroes out there. I'm sure it was like, if you thought about it a little bit, it was definitely kind of maybe emotional kind of getting in there as well, right? With everything going on.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't trying to put it on, like, you know, bring what's going on in the world into the show, you can feel it. Everything that was happening beyond the pandemic, like, you know, the world needed to, you know, recover and mourn and really fix itself and reflect on itself and change things moving forward, you know, whether, you know, from all aspects. And we were shooting right in the thick of that. And even if you weren't trying to put it on screen or in your performance, it's just there. And we have some real talented people like that are attached to this project, and made some adjustments even from season 1 to season 2. And with all this happening, I think we demanded out of ourselves as a collective to do better. Yeah. You know, to bring something that you know, we needed to express because of this time.
Absolutely.
You know?
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think the show, and I think you said this in other interviews, we talked about this before, but like, you know, the show, obviously, you know, you guys aren't nurses in real life, but it's basically about kind of the real life kind of scenarios of people working as nurses. And these are people that, like, your characters are people that, you know, get vulnerable at times. They make mistakes, you know what I mean? They get very emotional. There's a lot kind of going on. So, I mean, what was that kind of like playing a nurse in terms of like what I just said about kind of, you know, it's like you're playing a very like humanistic role, right, Donald?
Absolutely. No, for sure. Like, that's how I approached it. Like, a lot of people talk about, how like the medical lingo and all that. And I just thought, like, I recognize it's important, but somebody's already written that for me. And there's somebody that knows it much better than me. What I can do is try to be like, as close as I can get to the truth of the person behind the scrubs. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like, the truth of that person when they go home. Like, what is their first, you know, I remember shooting season 1. And I've never said it, but like I was sitting on a bus. I was going somewhere, and me and my buddy just decided to take a road trip. We're like, hey, let's get out of here, right? This was in the last summer. Yeah. And like 2 summers, anyways. And I saw like this nurse, right? And it was like 5 a.m. Like, it was very early in the day, and like I saw her like put her bag down, check her phone, and like start talking to her kids. And like, there was this moment where she just laid back on the seat and just went, and that's it, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's so, and shadowing nurses, seeing it. I was in the hospital recent, like before we released season 1. My grandpa was very sick, and the nurses were taking care of him. And the way they talked to him when he was like, when I'm knocked out on the floor, like sleeping, and he was like knocked out, the way they talk to the patient, like while doing their work, it's like, okay, honey, like no one's listening, but they're still speaking, and like just the little things like that.
Did you like ask anyone anything, or like was that just kind of just watching from afar? I mean, you're obviously like focused on your grandfather, but like did you say like, hey, I'm playing a nurse in like a TV show?
My mom made it very, very. My mom let all of them know after. Yeah. It was
He's gonna be on Nurses.
Yeah. They were fantastic. That's Rouge Valley, the nurses at Rouge Valley. So shout outs to them. They were amazing.
And, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's funny because last time you kind of came on, we kind of like talked about nurses a little bit, and we just kind of got like kind of deep about certain things, and it kind of just like went from like being about like nurses to like. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny, like that whole thing. It's like we could like take that interview and like cut it into like a short film. There's so much going on. You had your wicked headband, and like we were chilling.
Yeah, I was in touch. You know, I think it was a weird time for everybody. It's
pretty interesting because so. here's the thing, right? A lot of people kind of have a lot of questions. A lot of people look at you and be like, hey, Don MacLean Jr., how did you become an actor? How did you get on Nurses? How did you get on Working Moms? How did you get on a Blumhouse movie? They probably ask you that. People want to do that. People want to be in your toes. It happens. People want to be in your footsteps. It happens. You're also kind of learning and trying to get your feet wet as well, and you're looking up to people. It's middleman. I call it the middleman, right? You know, people look up to you. You look up to people.
Wow. Okay.
People ask me that question too about my show. How did I do this? How did I do that?
Yeah.
And what I did, and I'm wondering if it's the same for you, is I did what works for me.
Yep.
Basically, I have a certain kind of way I speak to people. I have a certain kind of way I basically put out my show, the way I edit my show, and it works because the proof is in the pudding, right? I'm getting a good amount of views and everything. Is it safe to say that that's kind of how it is too, like acting and storytelling too? I mean, you do certain things that kind of work for you.
You know this, like you have to start it. We are talking about this earlier. You just have to start it and then figure out what you do with it later. And then what makes that thing that you started good, it's when you realize that I'm going to do it my way 100%. Like you get vulnerable enough with it where you give yourself, you know, to the project, right?
Yeah,
you
absolutely. I just
like,
look at it too, where like people are perfectionists by nature. Like everyone wants to change things, but it's like if you have... Yeah, but if you have something that works, you know what I mean? Like and it's looking and it's doing well for you, like why change it a lot? You know what I mean?
We all have like the way we enjoy things, we approach things, you know? I think every interview you have or every, you know, character I get to play or scene or whatever, you may be still you're coming from it from that place of enjoyment, of love, right? Yep. Like that's the love, that's the expression. But it's going to be different every single time because there is no moment that's the same, you know, and you just have to commit to the way you do it, you know,
absolutely,
and whatever way, like whatever you're going to need to grab from the air, from this person, from there, you do it and you do it your way. And that's literally, I think, the moment where you go from in actors and directors and in interviewers and in, you know, and anybody who's really just in that creating that space, the space of creation, right?
Sure.
It's the moment where you go like, I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna give the world something from me. That's
absolutely.
What I'm a real artist, you know, which I believe you are, and I that's what I'm trying to accomplish. You know,
absolutely. And I feel like it's one of those things too, where, you know, you work on a movie like The Craft with Blumhouse, you know, it's a role where, you know, you're given certain lines, you audition for it, you know what I mean? But there's got to be kind of that point, especially in Nurses, and I talked to Tiara and Jordan about this too. I mean, like, you want to kind of put your spin on things, and there are some people that will allow you to do it, but sometimes they kind of won't, you know what I mean? Depending on it. How do you kind of deal with that a little bit?
Like what, like the spin on the character, like how I approach
like I want to say it like this, you know what I mean? Or maybe sometimes you won't have the opportunity to do it like that. Like it happens, you know what I mean?
I have a funny craft story. I've never told anybody this. It's very, very private. It's the audition process.
Oh man.
And I didn't get the last 20 pages of the script when I was auditioning for it, right? So I didn't know exactly how. Like I thought I knew the tone, right? Like I had an idea, but you don't really know, right? But I'm like, I'm gonna do it my way. I want this role. I like it. I saw Euphoria, and I remember seeing Jacob Elordi's role in that, and I was like, that's an interesting art, like caricature right there that I haven't seen, like you know, you've seen that tortured like jock or whatever right on screen, but you haven't, like, it's been taken to another level, like now it's being very, like now it's like a character, you know, study, and like, right, like it's being like on shows they've taken that and really expanded on it.
Absolutely.
And I saw that and I was inspired to want to do so I was like, I want to go 100%, right, in the audition room. So I went in as the character. So like the casting director, who I know very well, like amazing guy, was like trying to talk to me in the thing, and like I looked at him and I just kept my headphones on. I didn't talk to him, and I went in there and I did it. So they said, like, and this was like a screen. I don't know what it was. Like it was pretty deep in the audition process, and they're like, no, like that guy's crazy. Like that's so then my managers have to call them and be like, no, he's not. He really like was into the role, and like came back and me and Zoe Jones like hit it off, because I just was normal like this, like, you know, like,
no, absolutely.
That was the process I got my character from walking in there as the character. And although, like, I don't know, the biggest part of supporting the beautiful girls of the craft who did a fantastic job, but and I'm so proud to be a part of that. But that's like how I got into
I'm
that
wondering if someone clued in a little bit or like thought about it, like maybe he was just playing the part, like because you know what I mean. Like I don't feel like anyone, or I don't know. I'm a bit green to that, but I don't know if anyone
just don't-
goes in purposely being rude when they want a job.
I think I overdid it a little. I think I was a little, you know what I mean? Like, way I act also, it's not just like, okay, you're the character. It's also like the way you approach the process of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I think that, like, the parallel of actually, like, as an actor, how you're working on it, would your character work on it in the same way? I don't know if that makes sense. Like,
No, it does for sure. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's interesting because, you know, it's funny because I'm a huge horror movie fan. There's so many horror movies out there, but like anytime, like I just get excited every time there's kind of like a Blumhouse project that comes out. They've kind of like,
Oh, they're great.
yeah, I love it, man.
They can, if you know, like how like hockey players, like, or like, you know, like whatever, back in the studio system, you can sign to like a studio, like, and then you can only do pictures with them. I would do that. I would do that at Blumhouse. They're doing fantastic work, you know. Very
Absolutely. Did you also? It's funny because I don't know if you saw it was on Shudder. Did you see that movie Host on Shudder? That was like it was filmed basically on Zoom, basically, and they do like a séance and like shit goes real basically, and it's like terrifying. Yeah. So like they did it in it was like a UK production, and I interviewed like the whole cast about it. Shudder set it up.
Wow.
But like the thing is, the writer and director of that movie, like got like a Blumhouse deal, got like a 3-picture Blumhouse deal.
They're
after
in
that.
touch, man. They're in touch. Like I think that's the sign of good, like somebody's doing really good work, is if they're in touch. Like you look at anybody's prime, they were just so in touch with what was happening in the world artistically, socially, you know, and somehow mix that personally. And that is the sign of somebody's just doing it right. Like you're in touch with what's happening.
But you also write, you're in filmmaking, you do filmmaking too. You've done your own indie projects as well. Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like, you know, if I watch some of your movies and I'm like, how did you come up with this? You're kind of just like, I don't know. Like, I just felt like it worked. Yeah. Like, sometimes people ask me about that stuff too. And it's like, I don't know. Like, I just, like real life experiences, maybe. Like we were talking about possible projects before we started. Like, it's a mix of both, right? Like, I feel like real life experiences is a big one, right? Because you're going to kind of self-reflect and put it in your projects.
Absolutely. That's all we got is that, like, our real life. And you got to play both hard. You got to play both, like, real. Like, you got to give the same effort you give to your life that you would give in the writing room or on set or whatever, you know, as a director, writer, whatever you do. You have to give how you live your life the same respect and the same, like, commitment, because that's where you're pulling from. As much as you want to, like, that is where you're pulling from. You're pulling from life, and you have this creative juice, and you need to fill it up with life. You need to go live. You need to go do things, and then put it in your work. And that's all we have. Literally, all we have is our personal experiences and relationships and connections and moments. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
On paper and then on screen.
Yeah,
you know? For
sure, man. No, absolutely. Well, Donald. Do people call you Don or Donnie, or they just go Donald?
Donnie, man, I don't know if I'm getting. I don't know if I'm getting old. I don't know. Like I get Don.
Like, I know it's just like Donald.
Yeah. I'm getting Donnie. I've been getting Donnie lately. So whatever, you know.
Absolutely.
I'm named after my grandfather, so it's not like, you know. It's yeah.
Oh, so he's Donald MacLean Sr.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, raised me. Yeah.
So that's I mean, that's an important thing too. The junior is kind of almost like an indirect paying homage as well, right?
So that's why I did it. Yeah. My grandpa's, he raised me. My father wasn't really in the picture, so he was the guy in my life. And so when I got my first credit, I told my my agent, Miriam Vanderwerf, love of my life, that I want Don MacLean Jr. to be the thing on screen, so you could see his name. You know,
absolutely, no, for sure.
Yeah, it's a weird. It's not, you know what I mean, like but the guy who owned it first is the best in the game. You know, I love that guy.
Absolutely. Well, Donald.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man. We'll be back.
We'll be back. Yeah. And you're active on Instagram. People can follow you on Instagram.
Yeah. What is it? I think Donald_MacLean Jr. I think that's my Instagram.
Absolutely.
So bad. I'm like an old man. I'm like
Well, seriously, man, congrats on Nurses getting picked up. Congrats on all your projects, man. And absolutely, man, we'll be looking out for more stuff for sure.
Done deal. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative. For previous episodes. Until next time, this is MacLean Jr. and Peter Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.